Feminism as we know it was truly created during the Second World War.
Women were forced into the workplace by the demands of war in far greater numbers than ever before in history.
In the arms factories, men and women worked long hours to fill the gaps in British defences.
Men who were excluded from combat duties still carried the greater burden of production, but women had to take part as well.
Changed women's lives forever, with many of them learning new skills such as driving bombs or moving tiny replica arrows around giant walls, using only stepladders and their natural sense of
But at the end of the conflict, the surviving men came back from the front. Those that still had their limbs intact, and who had managed to retain their sanity, went straight back to work. Women gratefully left the factories and went back home.
Business and government didn't like this one little bit. They'd had their eyes open to the potential of women as workers alongside men, and wanted them out of the home and back into the workplace. It was this desire, primarily motivated by greed, which started the quest to persuade women to work. Feminism was born. Feminism is about exploiting a new market: women.
A better word for feminism would be put women to workism. This far more accurately describes the true nature and purpose of feminism. But the difficulty faced by business and government in putting women to work is simple to understand. Why should they? Why would any privileged group shrug off the luxury of not needing to work and willingly take up jobs when there's no benefit to them doing so? It's equivalent to persuading the Queen to trade in Buckingham Palace for a job in the local laundrette by telling her that she's oppressed by not having a proper job. The fact is, no government could ever make women go to work against their will. She's got a man working for her, she's living quite comfortably, she's looking after her children, her husband and her home. What would she do with the kids if she was working? Why would she want to be apart from them? So instead of even attempting to force women into work, government and business use the pathologically selfish psychology of women to make women choose to go to work for themselves. This is not to say that women had easy lives before feminism, but what is true is that women's lives were more focused on the needs of their families, whereas now women are forced to be more focused on their 9-to-5 jobs.
The most difficult task, and what should have been impossible, was how could mothers be persuaded to abandon their own children to childcare whilst they went to work?
Today's announcement is also looking at pilot schemes across England to give 2-year-olds a place at nursery.
It would seem like an impossible task, but the establishment was fortunate enough to have two powerful weapons to use against us all: the selfishness of women and the stupidity of women.
I thought of several ways to describe the behaviour of women with regard to feminism, but I was forced to settle on stupid under the sheer weight of evidence. The true irony for women, so consumed with self-interest, is that feminism is not about setting women free. It's about enslaving them. Women would have been far better served by rejecting every notion of feminism. If they'd done so, they'd be leading lives of much greater freedom than they do today. Business, by using feminism, has managed to convince women to want, demand and fight for wage slavery. They persuaded women that freedom lies in this slavery, and they've even made women believe that they're independent by being dependent on the job. They persuaded the elite group of people who have not had to work to survive into throwing off their privilege and free time, their quality of life and the needs of their families, and trade it all in for the treadmill of work.
If you can look at all the family tax credit systems and that type of thing, and payments to encourage the childcare facilities and that sort of thing, then obviously that's the route that they're taking. And if it appeals to women, and women have been told and brainwashed over the years that you've got to go back out to work, and they have been brainwashed, and there's all these childcare facilities as well, then you end up with a society that's moving along that line of its own volition.
Government has used feminism to grow larger in power by attempting to act as a replacement for men and fathers. By splitting up men and women, and by deliberately failing to support family, government has ensured that women stop looking to men for support and reach out to government instead.
Amy, are you getting enough from the state?
I don't think I am, no.
What do you get at the moment? Just
Pardon?
What sort of help do you get?
I'll get housing benefit and income support.
Government policy of not supporting the family. One father, one mother under one roof with its biological children. That's no longer supported.
You have the radical feminists who are pushing to exclude men from the family. That's one of their avowed aims. We want men out of the family. Unfortunately, we are described as the enemy.
By drafting equality laws and lying about the treatment of women at work, government has enraged women and made them even more determined to regard men as the enemy, to compete against men and to flood into the workforce.
To outlaw discrimination against you if you're black, if you're a woman. Men who work full-time still earn 40% more per hour than women who work part-time. We're going to tackle sexism in the city.
Female vote tends to be the moving vote. When you go back past previous elections, the male vote tends to stay fairly static. The female vote is the one that shifts. So if they can shift that female vote into their camp, and it means giving them whatever it is they need to give them to keep them there, then that's what they'll do. It's only politics.
But government's aim has never been to make women happier or improve their lives. Just as with business, its aim has always been to get more economic use out of women by removing them from their children and putting them to work. And this is sold to women as a positive thing for families, and women are stupid enough to swallow it and ask for more.
Maybe if they gave us a little bit more leeway with childcare and the whole area around childcare, then maybe we could go back and support ourselves.
That under Labour, breakfast and after-school clubs like this one would guarantee affordable childcare before and after school.
It is not about children being abandoned in schools for 10 hours a day all year round.
Parents can drop their children off 7 o'clock in the morning, don't have to pick them up till 6 o'clock in the evening. Tony Blair thinks this is a model for the rest of the country. He wants to introduce this in every primary school right across the country, and he says he can do it within 5 years.
Government doesn't even try to hide what they're doing, and they're brazen enough to tell everyone. But women still don't get it.
Fairness is important for our economy. An economy which sees no one pushed to the margins or excluded brings the widest pool of workers to employers, brings the widest pool of workers to employers, brings the widest pool of workers to employers.